Now, as I said, we'll be looking at organizational culture. But before we look at organizational culture, one thing is that when you want to apply organizational structure, that's what we looked at in our previous session. When you want to apply organizational structure in a question where they haven't really told you, but you have to look at the type of structure. Kindly first look at the factors that affect the organization. So, how large is the organization, the size, what do they do? Then you can know what structure to what apply. Then you look at the strategy, what strategies have they adopted? Then you look at the complexities that they face, like their risks and threats. Okay, so check your environmental analysis. So, based on that, you can know whether they are in a stable environment or they are in what a complex or turbulent environment. It keeps changing. So the above may be given in the scenario. So you have to check based on your internal and external analysis that you do. So that will help you know whether the organization is stable or is something that changes frequently. So after that, you identify the type of structure that fits with the organization, whether it's functional matrix, organization, and the rest, and all that. You just need advantages and disadvantages, just like we discussed. So when you finish, you discuss whether the structure that what you have selected is suitable by suggesting the advantages and disadvantages that best fits that organization. And alternatively, if you can't use this, then you can make reference to the Mintzberg structure. That's the strategic apex, middle cooperating core, Mintzberg organizational stereotypes, the configurations, how it is configured. So the simple structure, the machine bureaucracy, the divisionalized form, the adocracy, and the missionary organization. So remember them and know the dominant component. That's what they want to see in the exam. Then you can also use the Greener's growth model. Okay, Greener's growth model is a model of growth for organic growth. Okay, when you want to grow on your own, but because it's used the divisionalized structure, I would want us to look at it. That's why I separated this video. This is the application of organizational structure. Okay, before I look at organizational culture. Now, Greener's growth model goes through stages, a level of 6 phases and 5 crises that businesses may experience as they grow. Okay, and then for instance, if you grow through delegation, because you are now delegating, then there's a problem that you will face autonomy issues, because when I delegate, people want to be on their own. So we face what we call crisis of autonomy, and this one is best suited for what a divisionalized structure. So this thing can also be put in to explain. So you see, there are various stages of growth. There's a stage where you are an entrepreneur and you want to what grow with creativity. At that point, you are innovative. Are you getting it? You are innovative. You formed your own business. You are alone with some small stuff under you. Okay, so there's creativity. Everybody brings his mind on board. We work together. But you see that when you start growing, there's no direction because there's no leadership. So you face crisis of leadership. When you grow again, you realize that okay, now you've decided to what put in a functional structure. People's work are defined. They know what they are doing. Also, so you grow through direction. Now, as you are being directed, you realize that there's no autonomy. No, so there's no autonomy. Fine. So what do? You start bringing processes on board that, okay, now you want these to be divisional heads. They are going to head this and this. Now they are autonomous, they are on their own. Now you realize that now when they are autonomous, you start what? Delegating stuff to them. Not so. You start delegating functions and stuff to them. At the end of the day, you realize that you can't control them. You face a crisis of what? Control. As you go along, you grow by coordination, by making those people work together because there was no control. Now, making them work together to achieve the organizational goal is growth through coordination, not so. And once you do that, there will be a lot of red tape or what we call bureaucracy, not so. A lot of structures. It makes it difficult to have local knowledge. Then, because of that, you are going to say, wow, then you are facing a crisis of red tapeism because there's a lot of bureaucratic measures put in place. So now the best thing to do is to collaborate with other people, which means that you grow through collaboration also by working hand in hand with other people. Then from collaboration, you reach the growth state, the crisis of growth, because once you have collaborated, there may be a stunt in your growth because of cultural differences and other things. Then finally, you go to the last phase where you are doing alliances. You got to the peak of your business, and you may still face crisis of growth. So that's the Greener's growth model. Just be comfortable with it when you are explaining. You just talk about the growth and then the crisis that the person phases. Okay, so we'll look at it again when we get to organic structures. This was just a run through. Now we are going to focus on organizational culture to suit your chosen strategy. What is culture? Now, culture is expressed by Charles Handy as being the way we do things around here. This means the sum total of your belief, your knowledge, your attitudes, your norms, customs that prevail in a particular organization. So organizations have distinctive cultures, and behavior acceptable in one organizational culture may be inappropriate in another. So we should think about the different cultures in different accountancy firms. Everybody does their own thing. They wear their own attire. They have attire that they wear. They have things that they do. Some organizations, when they go every morning, they do morning devotion. Others don't do anything. There's some organizations, when they go, they all sit at the boss's office. He comes to give them a prep talk before they start the work. Okay, so all of this all have their own reporting times, all have what they wear. Fridays, they have some attire, they have some African wear or something. All these are culture, okay? So also cultures may develop over time and can change instantly as a result of a single major event, like the death of a company founder or a threatened takeover may change the way you do your thing. So what are the elements of culture that we can see? So we have a set of norms of behavior that we use, symbols and symbolic actions, a set of shared values and beliefs that we can have in an organization. So the norms guide people's behavior, suggesting what is or what is not appropriate. The done thing, so like your informal dress codes, Friday wear, all those things, Lacoste. So the symbols and symbolic actions, like the rituals in the organization, like buying the office a cake on your birthday, and also then beliefs that underline the culture by identifying what is important. This is mostly known what is what the paradigm. So the beliefs that you have, the underlying shared value, what you take for granted, what is the key or the core of the organization. Okay, this is what we call the underlying paradigm. Okay, now there are some factors that shape or influence organizational culture. Okay, so we can have the size. How big is the organization? Are you getting it? So the size of the organization can influence the structure, the culture. Also, the technology being used. How advanced is the technology in terms of product and productive processes? Diversity. How diverse is the company? Their product scope, product range, geographical spread, or cultural makeup of its stakeholders. Where do they come from? Do they come from all over the place? The age. How old is the organization? Because organizations with experience tend to be stable. Also, then the history. What has worked in the past? Do decision makers have past successes that they have to draw upon, or are they willing to learn from their mistakes? And ownership. If it's owned by a sole trader, or there are a number of institutional shareholders, or there are large numbers of small shareholders, okay, the founder of the organization or the ownership structure can also influence or shape the culture. There are other influences on organizational culture or other factors that influence organizational culture. So there are other more subtle influences, like the degree of individual initiative. You know, so is it encouraged, or their decisions always referred upwards to the top level? I get it. So there, in this, you remember the professional bureaucracy, where the professional core, the operational core is the dominant component. Okay, so the professionals, there's a way that they think, right? They think, and this can also influence the way they work around there. Everybody works on his own. There's no relationship. So if you want to see the eye specialist, he has his own rules, he has his own culture. And the degree of risk tolerance. Are you allowed to follow your risk? I get it, your risk attitude in the organization. These are all influences on culture. Now, the clarity of direction is there. Is there a clear focus? Are your objectives clear? The degree of integration between groups, can you work together? The reward system. Are you rewarded for succeeding? Is it based on some performance criteria? Conflict tolerance. Can you tolerate conflicts or air grievances? Communication patterns. Is it a formal or informal network of communication? Then we have formalization of your clothing and office layout. Are there strict rules over the clothes you wear and all that? How are your office cubicles arranged, or your office layout? And also the kind of people that are employed. Some organizations, when you are below 30, they don't pick you because they feel you are immature. Some organizations, when you are beyond 30, they can't pick you because they feel you are old, especially audit firms. So when we are looking at the elements of culture, okay, I think this one was formed by Hofstadter. This Hofstadter, I don't think ICA You need this, but it's good if you know. Okay, so the elements of culture, there are parts that we can see and parts that we cannot see. So the observable behavior, okay, the observable part of culture are the observable and express elements of culture, and it will include your behavior, the customs and rules that are considered or acceptable within an organization structure or culture. Then we have the artifacts, which are the solid expressions like your office design, your dress codes and symbols. Then you have the attitudes, which are the patterns of behavior such as your greeting style, your social ceremonies and business formalities. Then we have the values and beliefs. And these are adopted values, which are conscious strategies, goals, and philosophies. Okay. These ones we cannot see with our eyes. So the observable behavior, which is the behavior, the artifacts, the attitudes, we can see. Values and beliefs, we cannot see. The basic assumptions provide the key to understanding why we do what we do or why things happen the way they do. So these basic assumptions form deeper dimensions of human existence, such as the human nature, human relationship, activity, reality, and truth. Okay. So if we want to demonstrate culture in an organization, we can see that we have what the behavior that we can see, the beliefs and the values, not so. But one thing is that there's something which is deeply rooted, which is the main theme or the main paradigm. Okay, the main story of the organization, which everybody follows to achieve success. Okay, now that is it. So if we want to use that, so we can look at our beliefs and values, our norms and behavior, our rituals, which are customary practices or the way we do things also. And then the paradigm equals the set of assumptions that are taken for granted by the employees. Okay, it is far more representative of an organization's culture than its values. It is the core of the company, as I explained. But the key model for organizational culture, which you'll be using in your exam, is mostly the culture web. Okay, so the culture web has 7 elements. So the rituals and routines that are being done, the tasks performed periodically. Are you getting it? So the business as well as non-business daily behaviors that you do in the organization. Then the symbols, which symbolizes the position of an organization, can be verbal or visual, like your logos, your expensive cars, your special dining rooms, personal assistants, languages, title. So you see the things I'm mentioning in a case when you're able to identify all these and tell us what they mean. I getting it? Then you can be able to apply the culture web. Be careful with the culture web this time. They can ask you to apply the culture web. So you must know what is in the culture web. So we have control systems. So this is the basis of performance measurement and rewards. What is closely monitored in the organization? Punishment or reward system? What processes have the strongest or weakest controls? Not so. Then we have organizational structure, which is formal or informal, tall or flat, centralized or decentralized, entrepreneurial, functional, whatever it may be, machine bureaucracy, professional bureaucracy, maybe adhocracy or missionary organization, mechanistic or organic, tall, flat, all those things can work here. Just look at it from the organization. Then we have the power culture, who is the most influential, important position in the organization. Then we have the stories, things that they believe, background stories, beliefs about the stakeholders and belief of stakeholders about the organization, the staff, what do they believe? There was a story that maybe the mother of the founder died in the organization and her soul is lurking around. Because of that, if you don't do the work well, she may come to scare you in your sleep. Because of this, people go to work early, they do things the right way. This example of story. Now, paradigm is the overall beliefs. It reinforces all the other elements of the cultural web, inclusion of what all the above points. So all these things must work hand in hand to make sure that what the overall culture is being what achieved, or the overall culture fits your strategic position and your strategic capability. So it's mostly depicted as follows. So you have your stories, symbols, power structures, organizational structure, control systems, and rituals and routines, and you have the paradigm in between, or as the core, right, which cuts across all. That's the core belief that everybody's centered around. So let's take a simple case and let's see if we can apply the culture web. Okay, so this Frigate. So Frigate Limited is based in the country of Egdon. It imports electrical components from other countries and distributes them throughout the domestic market. The company was formed 20 years ago by Ron Frew, who owns 80% of the shares. A further 10% is owned by his wife and each of his 2 daughters. So we can see organizational structure from here, right? Which is more family-centered or family entrepreneurial. Now, so although he has never been in the Navy, Ron is obsessed by ship sailing and naval history. These are like stories that we can see. So he's known to everyone as the commander And this is how he expects his employees to address him. He increasingly spends time on his boat, an expensive motor cruiser, which is moored in the local harbor 20 minutes drive away from the organization. These are like stories. He even has a name. Also, this can even serve as a symbol for people. Also, when he's not on holiday, Ron is at work 8 a.m. in the office to make that his employees arrive on time, and he is also there at 5:30 to ensure that they do not leave early. You see, that means that there is some sort of what routines, rituals, and routines that are going on in the organization. You can see, however, he spends large part of his working day on his boat, although he can be contacted by mobile phone. Rituals and routine. Employees who arrive late for work have to immediately explain the circumstances to Ron. So Ron is like the key power structure in the organization. We can see if he feels that the explanation is unacceptable, he makes an appropriate deduction from your wages. Rituals and routine also. Wages, like all costs in the company, are commonly monitored by Ron. He's the control structure there. Now, employees, customers, and suppliers. Now, Frigate has 25 employees, primarily undertaking sales, warehousing, accounts, and administration. So they've told us the functional relationship. Although employees are normally allocated to one role, they are required to work anywhere in the company as required by Ron. Entrepreneurial structure. Ron is the center of everything. So they are also expected to help Ron in personal tasks, such as booking holidays for his family, filling in his personal tasks, and organizing social events. Egdon has laws concerning minimum wages and holidays. All employees at Frigate are only given the minimum holiday allocation. They have to use this allocation not only for holidays, but also for events such as visiting the doctor, attending funerals, and dealing with domestic problems and emergencies. Ron is particularly inflexible about holidays and work hours. He has even turned out requests for unpaid leave. Wow. In contrast, Ron is often away from work for long periods, sailing in various parts of the world. Ron is increasingly critical of suppliers trying to sell me inferior quality goods for higher prices. Okay, that's his assumption that he has. Customers moaning about prices and paying later and later. And society in general, a period working in the Navy would do everyone good. This is a story. Meanwhile, he hasn't worked in the Navy. He's just obsessed with them. So that's a story. He has also been in dispute with the tax authority, who he accused of squandering his hard-earned money. An investigation by the tax authority led him to being fined for not disclosing the fact that significant family expenditure, such as holiday for his daughters overseas, had been declared as company expenditure. Now, the company accountant. It was this action by the tax authority that prompted Ron to appoint Ann Lee as the company accountant. Ann had previously worked as an accountant in a number of public sector organizations, culminating in a role as a compliance officer in the tax authority itself. Ron found that recruiting someone like Ann should help keep the tax authorities happy. After all, she's one of them. Ann was used to working in organizations which had formal organization hierarchies, specialized roles, and formal controls and systems. She tried to install such formal arrangements with Frigate. As she said to Ron, we cannot have everyone working as if they are just your personal assistants. We need structure, standardized processes, and accountability. Ron actually resisted her plans. At first, through delaying tactics and then through explicit opposition, tearing up her proposed organizational chart and budget in front of other employees. I regret the day I ever made that appointment, he said. After 6 months, he terminated a contract and returned to the tax authority as a tax inspector. So the culture web allows the business analyst to explore the way things are done around here. Analyze Frigate using the culture web or any other appropriate framework for understanding organizational culture. So you can see how I went about it. So the culture web illustrates the combination of assumptions that make up the paradigm together with the physical manifestation of culture. This is applied to Frigate below. So symbols, you could see that from the case organizations, we can first talk about what they mean. Organizations are represented by symbols such as logo, office dress, language, and titles. So the symbols at Frigate that indicate how the managing director wishes the company to be perceived and run include, we have Ron's nickname, the commander, the use of naval terminology, the Navy-inspired name of the company, not so. Now, Ron's motor cruiser is the main symbol of his success, and that we could see from the case. Then we have the power structure. It looks at who hold the real power in the organization. So at Frigate, the power comes from only one person, Ron. whose leadership style is based on strong opinions and beliefs. So the organizational structure, it often reflects the power structure, and there's little formal structure at Frigate. And the attempt to install a formal organizational structure failed. So it is basically around the entrepreneurial structure. So control systems. Organizations are controlled through a number of systems, including financial systems, quality systems, and rewards. So the areas that are controlled closest indicate the priorities of the organization. So the focus on Frigate is on cost control, and the emphasis is on punishment, such as wage deductions for being late, rather than rewards. Not so. So there are a few formal processes of process controls at Frigate, and the attempt to install such controls was heavily resisted by Ron. Now, rituals and routine. The daily behavior and actions of staff signal what the organization considers to be acceptable, expectations, and management values. At Frigate, there's only one rule for the managing directors: flexible hours, extended holidays, and another for everyone else. Minimum holiday, no flexibility, wage deductions for arriving late. So the rituals and routines for Ron, everything is cool. It's flexible for him. He can do whatever he wishes, but with you, it is not possible. And what are some of the stories? The people and past events talked about in an organization can illustrate the values of the organization and the behavior that it encourages. Stories at Frigate relate to the managing director as the commander. He's the hero of the organization who constantly has to deal with numerous villains like lazy staff, poor quality suppliers, customers who delay paying, the tax authority, and society in general who believes all need to do a stint in the Navy. Also, meanwhile, this guy has never been to the Navy. So that's the stories. And when it comes to the paradigm actually signifies the basic assumptions and belief that an organization's decision makers hold in common and take for granted. So it summarizes and reinforces the rest of the cultural web. So the paradigm at Frigate shows a company run for the personal gratification of the managing director and his family. So Ron believes that his lifestyle and benefits are the reward for taking risk in a hostile environment. That's what he believes. And that's the major basic assumption that he holds. So this is how you apply the cultural web. Define, tell us what you see from the case. That is all. Now, when it comes to how to link culture and organizational structure, we can look at the Charles Handy 4 distinct culture types, okay, which are also in your syllabus. Okay, so Charles Handy illustrates the principles and premises through the use of Greek gods. Okay, so when it comes to power structure, in this type of culture, there is usually a head that makes a rapid decisions and controls the organization's direction. So these are the most appropriate in small organizations and require a small sense of defense to the leader. So this one, mostly entrepreneurial, right? Head at the top, like Zeus. So this guy controls everything, not so. Then we have the role culture. The structure is defined and operations are predictable. Usually, this creates a functional structure where individuals know their job, and also report to their superiors who have similar skill sets and value efficiency and accuracy above all. Then when it comes to task culture, teams are formed to solve particular problems, a particular task. Not so. So the power is derived from the membership in those teams, and they have expertise to execute a particular staff. So due to importance of their given staff and the number of small teams in play, a matrix structure is mostly common for the task culture. When it comes to person culture, it is based on the individual person, professional bureaucracy, right? Their profession. In this type of culture, horizontal structures are most suitable. Each individual is seen as valuable and as more important to the organization itself. So this can be difficult to sustain as the organization may suffer due to competing people and priorities. Okay, so the contingent approach to culture makes it necessary for organizations to also exhibit one specific type of culture throughout the organization, but it is required for different types of culture to prevail in different departments of the same organization. Okay, so adopt as and when it fits. That's contingent approach. Now, culture and ethics can also go together. Okay, and this one was proposed by Edgar Schein. He proposed that corporate culture consists of shared values, beliefs, and ways of thinking within the organization. So he also identified 3 levels of culture. The outer skin, which is the visible ones we saw. So you can still apply these ones. In case they don't give any specific model, then you may apply the culture web, but if they give a specific model, it may be this or the type of culture, and they fit. I get it. So the outer skin is the part that we can see, the observable element. You see, we looked at Hobbes data, which is the observable behavior. Okay, that's the outer skin. So the physical facilities, employee attire, interactions, the symbols, and the organizational structure, those things we can see it. It includes stated values and mission statement, which can be expressed in general terms. The inner layer, at this level, employees share common views on specific issues. So it is reflected in the ethical stance taken by the company by addressing specific questions like trading with politically repressive countries or sourcing goods from suppliers that use exploitative labor. So the inner layer are the things that we cannot see, not so. But the last one is the heart, which is what? The company's overall paradigm. You see, all the structures or all the organization culture model always talks about the paradigm, also, which are the shared assumptions and attitudes that shapes the organization's what identity and how it views itself and its environment. So the paradigm rarely is discussed or written down, but it influenced the core culture of the organization, like we saw with Ron. Also, he's doing everything actually to please him and his family. Also, so Shine emphasized that changing corporate culture is challenging. While the outer skin can be altered with determined effort, the paradigm is difficult to change as everything centers around what? The paradigm. It requires a deep transformation of the organization's underlying assumptions and values. So in simple terms, corporate culture is like an iceberg, okay? The outer skin is what we see as the physical environment and stated values. The inner layer represents specific shared views on ethical issues, and the heart or paradigm is the deep-rooted unspoken beliefs and the informal relationships that shape the organization's identity. So the changing outer skin is easier, not so, but changing the paradigm is very difficult. So in case you have to use this, I think this is an easier model. You can easily apply this. Now we come to how to link culture, structure, and change. This model is everywhere. It can be used everywhere. So always, this is the most likely model, the McKinsey 7S framework, okay? So it brings us 7 S's, are you getting it? Which was developed by the McKinsey organization also. So it looks at what structures and cultures and changes can come together in the organization through implementing hard and soft S's. Also, so these S's, we have the hard ones, which are the strategy, structure, and systems which should be dominant, and the ones that can be changed, also, which are the what? The soft ones. So you see that we have depicted the green ones as the hard S's and the soft S's as the other one with the shared value in the middle, which is like the paradigm. Also, so we start with structure. What structure do we need to execute the particular strategy? Then we come to strategy. What should we do to solve the specific business problem in question? Okay, so this is how you apply the McKinsey. So look at the organizational structure that fits the organization. When it comes to the system, what systems of communication, what systems of motivation, what systems in the organization, the power structures that need to be there. Not so. So these three things must have a fit. These are like dominant. They should be dominant in the organization to make sure that you achieve your organizational objective. Then when you look at, then you come to the other ones. The shared value is the core principle which will help you. Why do you do it, and why do you do it in a particular way? Not so. And then when it comes to the skills, what are the specific skills that will help you? What skills do you need to develop? Then the staff. What staff should we employ? Which ones are going to help us grow? Which ones are going to help us get or implement our strategies? And also, which staff are going to bring success or competitive advantage? And when it comes to style, you're looking at the leadership style and cultural qualities, which will help us achieve a specific objective. So remember, hard S's, strategy, structure, systems. Then we have the soft, shared value, which is the center, the skills, the staff, and the style. So remember, 7S framework for culture, structure, and change. It is everywhere. So when they tell you to apply it, just look at it and tell us what you can see, the type of structure, the types of systems or control structure they are using, the strategy that is being used, and also the shared values or the basic principles or underlying assumptions that are used or beliefs. We look at the skills that are needed, core competencies, basically, and also the staff we need to employ by HR and the style of leadership or management. Okay, so please remember this. Then the final thing I'll talk about organizational culture is informal organization. So with this type of structure, the rules, regulations, specific duties, and formal hierarchies not designed. People usually have informal relationship like friend groups, clique, factions, and also, or they form small groups. Also, you go to canteen, you see that everybody is sitting with his own friend. So an informal organization will be present to some degree within all formal organizations. Even formal ones, they are still informal relationships. Okay. So think of the informal organization as being the aspect of organization's culture. So people are relaxed. The advantage is that people are relaxed. If they will work together informally, they might help each other in a better way and time will be saved. There's more creativity. People have better communication with each other and with other departments. Also, there is a sense of belonging within a group. There is checks and balances on authority, there's social networking. In case of illness of a member, rest of the members can perform his duties. For management, there will be reduced amount of supervision. But the difficult thing about informal organizations is that they are difficult to control. It is difficult to bring change. They might waste time because of friendship. Rumors and grapevine travel quickly, which may be dangerous for the organization. So there was one case where they told us that the managing director was dating one of the staff that went around the organization and that went out to shareholders. The guy ended up being fired, and they only saw the managing director just talking to the girl in the storeroom. The question is, what were they doing in the storeroom? So everyone will try to interfere, everyone will try to refuse their responsibilities and duties because man is lazy and difficult to also take individuals accountability when they are accountable. So these ones you can chip it in as and when you are talking about culture and structure, they link together. That's why I'm bringing you the link. So the final thing we have to actually talk about is change management, one of the biggest areas that you have to really focus. So culture, structure, change, don't joke with it. They are always there in some way and somehow. And these sessions, I just took time to cover all the models that you need to know. So the first thing is that change is only constant in strategic management. Most of the time, you must know, and change happens consistently. Change must happen all the time, and change therefore needs careful management. So changes may be planned, gradual, one-off, or a continuous process. So what are the types of organizational change that can happen? We can have a planned change or what we call a proactive change. So this is deliberate and intended. Okay, so the entity makes the change to move from an existing situation or way of doing things to a new situation. So they have planned to change. Now, an unplanned one or a reactive change means that something has happened and we have to respond to it. Okay, so proactive means that we have decided to change, but reactive means something has happened and immediately we have to find a way to change the situation, right? So an unplanned change or reactive change happens in response to development, events, and new circumstances that have arisen. So the change is not intended in advance like the proactive one. You get the idea. Then we have incremental change, which is fairly advances of change, like small advances. We add changes, small. So this type of changes happen without the need for a major reorganization or restructuring of the organization and its systems and procedures. So we should be able to adapt easily to the change because we add gradual increments of the change. Now we have a transformational change, which is a big change to transform the organization. So a transformational change requires a major reorganization or a restructuring of the organization and its systems and procedures. And the change has a big impact on the organization and also on the people working on it. So Balogun and Haley actually came up with a contextual change model, okay, to tell us the types of change based on the end result of the change and the nature of the change. So Julia Balogun and Veronica Hope Haley have suggested a model for change. Usually, because you can just look at changes as planned, unplanned, transformational, incremental, there's no need to know this model, but this model also helps you when you want to talk about the why and the what of change. Okay, so analyze your current competitive position, that is the change that is needed, and look at the desired future result and the barriers to the change. What is stopping the change? So according to Balogun and Hopeli, we can look at the nature of changes. So the end result may be a realignment or a transformation, not so. And the nature of the change can be a big bang, one-off change, or an incremental change. Okay. So we first have to look at the nature of the change. So a change can be gradual or incremental, which means that it builds on your existing methods or policies and approaches rather than challenging them. So it's gradual. Then a big bang change is a change that happens all at once and quickly and involves a major change to existing methods, processes, and cultures, usually required in times of crisis where rapid responses are required. So with big bang, mostly you have to use reactive, right? Reactive change and plan change, because maybe a new competitor came into the market and is taking all of your customers. That's a significant, you need to react immediately. You can't make it gradual. You need to change immediately. So apart from that, we need to look at when we implement this, what is the end result that we may get? So after implementing this, the nature of the change and the end result or the scope, we may end up with a transformation, which is a big change, or a transformational change, which is a fundamental change in organization, or a realignment, which is a less fundamental change than a transformation, but will still be what? A major change. Now, you should understand that transformational change often requires a change in the culture, and that is more difficult to introduce successfully. Also, mostly when it comes to maybe mergers and acquisition, you know that could be a transformational change. Maybe a company has bought us, he may want us to adopt their methods, right? And that may be difficult. So the nature and extent of change can therefore be defined by a combination of two issues aforementioned. So when you look here, you could see that when the change is incremental and the end result is a realignment, that change is known as an adaptation. When it is incremental and the end result is a transformation that we need, that's an evolution also. So it's a gradual change, but it changes the culture, or it changes the existing methods of the organization. If the change is one-off or a big bang and it requires a realignment and not so major change, it becomes a reconstruction, meaning we are trying to reconstruct some of our methods or re-engineer some of our methods. And when it's a big bang and it's a transformation, then that change means that it's a one-off change and we are changing our culture and existing systems once and for all, which becomes a revolutionary change. This one is difficult to implement as it changes everything. Okay, so that is what you should know for Balogun and Hopeli and the nature of changes. Okay, so we have reconstruction, which means significant and rapid change in the operation and processes and respond to the crisis. And does not involve any major change, but the adaptation where the existing changing model is what is adopted or retained, and this only occurs incrementally. Then we have evolution, which is incremental processes that lead toward a new business model. So we change slowly. That's why we call it evolution. Now, revolution, what happens is that it is rapid and wide-ranging response to extreme pressures for change, and requires a fundamental shift in your model. Also, a big shift in your model. So this one, evolution, it may take time because it's incremental, but revolution changes everything. Okay, so please remember this. So apart from that, we must know the causes of change. Okay, these are the triggers of change. What causes the change? So it answers the question, why that change? Why are we changing? Why should we change? Or what are the causes of the change? So triggers or drivers may be internal or external. Now, one thing you should understand is that you may use your internal models and external models like PESTEL 5 forces to identify change. So instead of expecting PESTEL to come for PESTEL external analysis, it may be used as a risk identification model or a trigger for change. So it may be a political change, economic change, social change, technological change, legal change, maybe a threat of new threats, a new major competitor is coming into the market. So you can use 5 forces. Maybe there are new substitutes on the market. So all of a sudden, we know ECG is the major supplier. All of a sudden, then a foreign company has come to install big batteries or maybe windmills in Ghana to provide electricity. You can see that this is a significant change. So use your external analysis to identify triggers for change in the external drivers, right? When it comes to internal triggers or internal methods, there could be a change in senior management, which often happens in cases, change in senior management. So new king brings new laws, processes and procedures changing, acquisition and mergers, and also demergers and divestment. We want to sell a part of our business, reorganization, downsizing and rationalization. Also, so we can have mergers, we can have maybe a major reconstruction of our business. All of these are internal drivers within the organization, changing your culture, changing staff. All these things are within. Okay, so you can support this with numbers by checking things like staff turnover, maybe change in significant what ratios, all these things are within, right? You can look at how the change is happening and how it does. So in a question, look at it carefully because there are various things that you can identify as what change drivers or change triggers. Okay, so let's look at the attitude to change. When the change is happening, some people may resist the change, okay, which mostly are what we call restraining forces. So when we get to the models that we need to understand, you will see something that we call restraining forces. Okay, so attitude to the change or resistance to the change. Now, some employees might welcome change and support the change. Most often, however, employees fear the change and may resist the change. So attitude and culture may therefore act as blockages to the change. Some people usually do not like change. So reasons related to the job. I get it. That's the first resistance for change. Now, employees may fear that the change will put their jobs on risk and be made redundant. So accounting staff who is using manual accounting and all of a sudden they introduce Tally in the organization. Hey, accounting software, how can I use it? So he's afraid he'll resist the change. No, they shouldn't bring it. They shouldn't bring it. Now, so employees may fear that their existing skills will no longer be required. Yes, we don't require your skills because you are a manual accountant. Employees may fear that their working condition will change for the worst. So these are reasons related to the job. We also have personal reasons and fears, like they may fear that the change will make them less important to the employer, like this guy I'm talking about. He may view the change as criticism to the way that they work, right? You are using manual accounting in this day and age. Employees may think their work will become less interesting after the change. Yes, that is very true. So you have to change. And employees may be reluctant to learn new things. This guy learned accounting in the 1970s. He doesn't want to learn the report style. He knows the account by ledger. So it's difficult for him to change. He fears the unknown. For all he knows, he can lose the job. He may not get work. He may not get proper retirement funds. So this guy is scared. He may end up on the streets. Social reasons. They may resist the change as they believe that it will break up their working group and separate them from the people that they enjoy to work with. That is very true because sometimes the fundamental change to the organization systems will require that you'll be transferred to another place, and the people you enjoy working with, you may not have them again. And employees may think that they'll be forced to work on their own more with less interactions with a colleague. And employees may also dislike the management who is forcing the change, and employees may also dislike the way of change that is being introduced without consulting the employees that are affected. Okay, so remember, so you must know the reasons for resistance, which are all restraining forces. They stop the change or slow down the change. So reasons related to the job, personal reasons and fears, and what social reasons, please remember. Now, for change to happen, okay, for a successful implementation of the changes to happen, there's something we call the levers of change. This lever is something that will move the change or will make the change happen, right? So they are levers of change. You must understand them, or you must know at least 5 or 6 of them. There are lots of them, okay? So first of all, if a change is about to happen, we must have a clear understanding of the need for the change and what will be the desired result of that change. For instance, communicating a compelling aspiration to everyone that is being what? Affected. Not so. So the next is the commitment of the leaders to the change. So to persevere and continue with the changes, even if there's a setback and it defeats you on the way. Not so. So effective communication with everyone who is affected with the change is also important. This should be a two-way communication. Management should listen to the staff as well as explain to the staff the need for the change. And also management should have what? The required what? Qualities to implement changes successfully. So leadership qualities for managing change are described later. So the organization must also structure and build relationships within the organization, also, and should be adapting also to meet the requirements of the change. So this is where you build alliances and support within the entity and also cooperate with external parties. So the model that you see, I put something in brackets, is also lever of change, but it is proposed by Rosabeth Moscanta. They are the skills for managing change, and they can also be written as the levers of change. Okay, so the same way, reward system should be amended so that the rewards to managers and other employees are based on performance targets that are consistent with the requirements of the change. So you give full credit to everyone who helps to introduce the change successfully. So you can see that when it comes to Rosabeth Moscanta's theory, you have compelling aspiration to everyone, telling the change, persevering and continue, even if there are setbacks, not so. Building alliances with people, giving full credit to everyone who helped introduce the change. The same way we can what? Bring critical success factors and performance indicators to be revised so that they are consistent with the change, new targets, new reward systems, also. And everybody should be educated in the purpose of the change and training to meet the operational requirements of that particular change. Okay, so these are the levers of change. Make sure that you can write them in your own words. There should be communication, there should be commitment, understanding, there should be new structure, and also for people to meet the change. There should be systems. Your reward system should be amended. There should be new target set, new reward systems, and also, and we should educate and train people about the change. So these are levers of change. Now, what are the change management models that you need for your strategic case study exam? So we need Lewin's force field analysis. We need Lewin's change model or prescriptive change theory or iceberg model. It has a lot of names. We have Rosabeth-Moskanta theory of change. There are 2 theories, but we only need the lever type or the skills for managing change adept organizations. We have Gemini 4R to change management and McKinsey 7S, which we just looked at, in the culture web. The same things can be used for managing change. So let's look at them one after the other. We first start by looking at Lewin's force field model. It describes the forces that come into conflict over the plan changes. So there are 2 driving forces that are identified, or 2 forces. So they are what we call the driving forces. These are the forces that support the change, or they want the change, or that bring about the successful change. Then the restraining forces are those that oppose and resist the change. An example of restraining forces are the attitude to change, and also the attitude to resistance. So we saw social reasons, personal reasons and fears, and what? Work reasons, and also social reasons. All these things, we can look at them. So Lewin argued that every driving or restraining force has a strength which could be measured on a scale of 1 to 5. When it gets to 5, very strong. So the strength of the total driving forces and the strength of the total restraining forces can be measured. So change will only happen when the driving forces are stronger than the restraining forces, and vice versa. So if you want to apply this, look in the case whether the resistance is more than the implementation of the change, or the good vibes coming with the change. If the good vibes are bad than the bad vibes are more than the bad vibes, then change should be implemented. The change should happen. But if not, then you must find a way to reach a compromise or manage that change. Okay, so there are various strategies for managing change. Now we need a change manager, and the task of the change manager in the Lewin force field model is to ensure that the strength of the driving forces exceeds the restraining forces by either strengthening the driving force or weakening the restraining force. So the employees who are resisting, can we find a way to compromise? Can we find a way to train and educate them? These are ways to try to bring down the restraining forces and strengthen the driving force. So this is the first model, Lewin's force field model, right? It's like a magnet. Opposites attract, and also, and like poles repel. Okay. So Lewin, the unfreeze, change, refreeze, the iceberg model, or the prescriptive plan change theory. Now, Lewin here also suggested an approach to introducing plan transformational change. He suggested that a planned process for change should begin with what? Identifying the cause of the problems and the reasons why the change is needed, identifying the opportunities for making improvement through transformational change. So the change process that needs to be gone through are the unfreeze, the change or the movement, and the refreeze. Now, the unfreeze stage is where you give people the reason why you are changing, telling them why the change is necessary, persuading them that the change is necessary. So the employee should be unfrozen out of what? The acceptance of their current situation. So this situation will not help you. We need this because it will end up giving you salary of this much. You are no longer going to stress again. This software that we are bringing is even going to make your work easier. Trying to persuade them. No, so that's unfreeze. You are unfreezing their thoughts because they are stuck in one place, which is they are frozen. No, so they should be encouraged to recognize what is wrong with the current situation and why they desire the change. And management should communicate with employees with clear vision about the change desired and discussed with the employees that are affected. Also, the next thing to consider is the change or the movement. So once you have been able to unfreeze them, now you need to put in the change. You need to implement the change. So you support the change. Are you getting it? you support the change, the people should support the change, everybody should support the change, right? So the support for the change should be strong enough to overcome the opposition, which is consistent with the Lewin's force field analysis. And there should be sufficient resources to be provided to implement the change. Okay, set new targets, and also give people rewards. And also, management should involve employees affected and get them to participate in the change, which can help reduce their resistance to change. So we are sort of bringing down the restraining forces. And also, then after the change has been implemented, then the change should stay, right? It should stay and stay. It should stick and stay, right? That is what we call the refreezing. So there's a risk that they'll go back to their old ways even after the change has come. So you must let the change stay. So the employee should be encouraged to carry out with the new ways of doing things, like rewarding them from their performance, and also that they've made on the behavior, I get in their desired behavior result from this change. That is the refreezing. So we make sure that the change that has come to stick and stay. Okay, so this is a model. Unfreeze, persuade people about the change, move them away from their existing situation, change, bring them into the new situation, and let them stay, refreeze. Okay, so undo, change, and redo. No, so let it stay. Okay, so that is the change or prescriptive change model. Then we come to Rosabeth Moscanta. So we have the theory of change and skills for managing change. Now, Rosabeth Moscanta theory of change. Rosabeth Moscanta suggests that the way an organization operates is an integral component in how employees derive their attitudes and behaviors. So the way you behave with somebody is how he reacts towards you or how he builds attitude towards you. So the Moscanta theory proposes that employees exhibit different behaviors based upon whether certain structures supports were in place or various structural supports were in place. So the following precepts sum up the management theory of Rosabeth Moscanta. So she states that power is derived from formal and informal sources, and staff require access to resources to meet organizational goals according to her, and increase staff knowledge and skills. And Rosabeth Moscanta also believes that they will be more productive. Also, if these things are in place, they'll be more productive. Now, she has a chain theory that states that information must be shared from the top to bottom so that everyone is aware of their goals. And spreading knowledge and sharing ideas will also lead to innovative ideas and collaboration from staff. This I haven't seen ICA bring. They mostly bring the skills for managing change, but there are some attributes of companies that manage change successfully. They have the imagination to innovate, they have professionalism to perform, and the openness to collaborate with staff. And based on this, she used it to look at the skills for managing change. Also, so the first is that you tune into your environment to know what is changing. Also, after knowing what is changing, you sort of challenge the prevailing organizational wisdom. Look at what is the current way we are doing things, and also, and try to tell them how you want the change to happen, or what you are doing is not right. We need to do things this way. That is how you challenge the prevailing organizational wisdom. Then, even if you have failures, people are not accepting, you learn to persevere. After learning to persevere, you try to build teams, you try to build coalitions and relationships with people to help you implement the change after you have taught them about the new change, which will challenge the organizational wisdom or the existing way they do things. Not so. So when you finish, you let people own the work that they've done. And when you finish, you make everyone a hero. Also by rewarding them that, oh, you did this work very well. So you see, these are also levers of change. Though they are their skills for managing change, they are still levers of change. So communicate the change or the compelling aspiration, right? So you tune into the environment, look at what is changing. Once you decide on the change, you communicate your compelling aspiration, you challenge the prevailing wisdom, you learn to persevere even if there are failures, you build alliances and coalitions with people, and then you reward people. And also, you give them the work or make them participate in the decision-making process by transferring ownership of the work to the work team and make everyone a hero. Please don't forget this model. Very important. So let me label it for you. So we first tune into our environment to know what is changing in the environment. Once we get it, then we must communicate the change to the people. And also, we must challenge the organizational wisdom. We must learn to persevere even if people don't support us. 5, we build coalitions with people. 6, we transfer ownership of work to people. And 7, we make everyone a hero. Now, if you look at tuning into the environment, communicating your aspirations, challenging the wisdom, and learning to persevere, are you getting it? Or if you look at 1, 2, 3, these ones, if you relate it to Lewin, it's like what? The unfreeze part, right? It's like you are unfreezing. So here you are communicating, you are challenging, you are moving them from what they used to be in. Not so. And then when you look at learning to persevere, building coalitions, not so, and transferring ownership to the work, not so. That one, or building coalitions. So we can even look at what 4 and 5 being the what the change, right? That is when you learn to persevere or learn to implement the change, and also what build assistance or build alliances with people. Then when we look at 6 and 7, rewarding people or making them feel part of the decision making process, it will make the change to come and stick and stay. So that becomes what the rephrase process. So you see, they're all related. So the same way we can use this same model to, it's linked, okay? They are all linked. So the skills for managing change are successful ways of implementing change, right? So models for implementing change, we saw Lewin, refreeze, unfreeze, refreeze, change, unfreeze, change, refreeze, and also the driving, and these are like driving forces to change. So if the change should be implemented or it should be successful, these things should drive the change. So remember them, also tune into your environment, communicate the change or the compelling aspiration, challenge the prevailing organizational wisdom, also, or you can make these 2 and make the other 3. It doesn't really matter. So when you challenge the wisdom, you communicate a compelling aspiration, also, then you learn to persevere, even if there are failures. Then you build coalitions with people, you transfer the ownership of the change that has happened to the work team instead of taking credit for yourself. Give people credit where it is due them, and make everyone a hero by rewarding them, not so with that, oh, you have done very well. This is a small bonus, or this is a new trip to Dubai, right? So these are skills for managing change by Rosabeth Moscanta. Okay, so we have looked at them. Then we have another approach to change management, which is the Gemini 4R approach to change. It still looks like this one. So Gemini Consult developed 4 R's for transformational change, right? So reframe means create a desire for the change, create new vision, create new targets for people to follow. So that is what it's like. Unfreeze. Then restructure, you relook at your structure, your relationships and processes, and reorganize them. Not so. So from there, you revitalize. This is where the new business, because it's transformational change, the new business will come. You bring in new technology, you emphasize commitment, it's like you redesign what everybody is supposed to do. Then the renewal, so it's like creating the desire, vision, and target is like the unfreeze, not so. And the restructure and the revitalize is the change itself, not so. That's where you bring in the new business model. People should employ new technology. This is the work everybody is supposed to do. Then the renewal is where we do consistent training, build new skills and competencies to support the change that has come, and we create new reward systems and promote learning and creativity. So this is where the change must stick and stay. So you see, there's relationship between all the models. They are all related. So you must be able to apply each of them. But this model, very important. Reframe, restructure, revitalize, and renew. Please make sure you remember this. So we have to look at who the change manager is. So when a transformational change is implemented, there often has to be a change agent who drives the change and is responsible for its successful implementation. So often the change agent is mostly an outside consultant. So what is his role? He must explain the reasons for the change and provide the employees with reliable information to reduce the risk of false rumors spreading about the change. You know, immediately there's a change, there might be false rumors that, hey, they are going to lay off a lot of people. Then people start getting scared. People tend to revolt. Not so. This person will make sure that the false rumors are not there, and he'll maintain communications with employees and monitor the progress of the change. He'll provide training to the employees affected and emphasize the benefits of the change to the individuals affected. Now, we use a consultant because mostly he is perceived to be independent and fair. He will have the experience in managing the change process, and he will have experience of many organizations and be able to advise on which changes must be desirable for us. And large-scale changes can easily go wrong. So management would want all the help and advice that are available. So if we want a turnaround strategy, okay, so when our business is on terminal decline, there's a need for rapid and what? Extensive change in order to achieve cost reduction and revenue generation, mostly when your business is in the decline. So there are 7 elements of such a strategy when you are managing change for a turnaround strategy. So first, there's crisis stabilization, which involves emphasizing on reducing costs and influencing or increasing their revenue. So this is more effective on reducing direct costs, that's your cost of sales, and improving productivity rather than overheads, right? So if you do that, you can reduce your cost and increase revenue. Then the management of change, like a new chairman and chief executive, will need to be found, preferably with experience of how to do turnaround management. And cost saving may be achieved by reducing the remuneration of the senior management. And also, you can also talk about communication with stakeholders. And also, we are come to do a huge reorganization. We need key support from our stakeholders for a change program to succeed. And employees often play an important role because they make and unmake you, not so. Then we also need to pay attention to our target market. So we put a clear focus on our appropriate market segment, not so, and it should become customer oriented and show a good flow of marketing information so that we do not lose. So concentration of effort, resources should be concentrated on the best opportunity to create value, and poor performance should be eliminated, and non-core activities, we have to outsource it because we do not have money to be paying for that. I get or to be doing that and wasting time. We should focus on the ones that can increase our revenue. Then we must do a financial restructuring also. So in the case of the entity, which is more or less solvent, capital restructuring may be required to provide cash for investment and to reduce cash outflow in the short term. Then prioritization. So to make a turnaround strategy successful, it depends on the management ability to prioritize necessary activities to deliver fast and significant improvement. So remember this, when you are managing change for a turnaround strategy, crisis stabilization, emphasize on reducing costs and improving revenue, managing the change, new CEO, new chairman, communication with stakeholders, attention to your target markets, become more customer oriented, concentrate your efforts on areas that you do well at, restructure financially, and prioritize, and also to deliver fast and significant improvement. So when it comes to strategies for managing change, we can enhance participation where everybody will be important in the decision-making process, making everyone a hero. Education and communication, educate employees about why the change is necessary. Power coercion. Sometimes if it's a transformational change, the employees may resist a lot, and it's supposed to be immediate. So you need power or coercion. You must coerce them. You must force them or impose the change on the employees. This is another strategy for managing change. Then we have manipulation. That works as part of a power strategy, but may not be seen as overt. So you manipulate them. This is an internal working, right? The manager will find a way to manipulate them. Then we have negotiation, which involves what? You talk to them, you reach a compromise with them, but it can take time. So mostly this is not advice. Then we have rewarding. Okay. So rewarding is one example where you can give people reward to make sure that they adopt the change. Okay, so if all of you let this accounting software be implemented, I'm going to give you a bonus of 50% of your salary, and they will actually go with it. Okay, so how do you use the culture web to analyze the context of change? The culture web can be used to analyze which aspects of the current culture needs to be changed and by how much, and which aspects of the culture should be preserved and retained. So analyzing the culture web can help managers responsible for the change to consider the following. To what extent does the original corporate structure support the changes that need to be made? And to what extent does the existing culture act as a hindrance or obstacle to the desired change? So when you're applying the culture web, look at the things that you think they should be changed. Like Ron's case, what should be changed and what should not be changed? Are you getting what extent does the corporate culture need to be changed so that the desired organizational change can be introduced successfully? So with Ron's case, what should change? To what extent does organization's existing culture need to be preserved because it supports essential competencies of the entity that needs to be maintained? So what should have been maintained in Ron's case, like people reporting at 8 and leaving at 5:30? I think that should have been retained. No, so the ones that should be taken out, the ones that you should retain in the context of change, strategic change, they can ask you. So this aspect of the cultural web can be studied so that the desired change can be seen in the context of the current culture and the paradigm. So you look at the 6 elements, and by changing aspects of them, the paradigm will end up changing. Okay. So you apply the model, but all you have to do is tell the examiner which aspects to be retained, which aspects to be changed to make sure that the cultural objectives or the strategic objectives are actually achieved. Okay. So that brings us to the end of structure, culture, and organizational change. Now, these models mostly come as theory, but they will want you to apply it in the context of the organization given. Make sure you watch the video once or twice, make your own notes to be familiar with these models. Until next time.